I know you've been reporting on Jack Eichel, and you said that there actually could be something to look forward to here. What is the latest? What does this mean in terms of his future in Buffalo?
Well, I think what's happening here is, both the general manager of the Sabres, Kevin Adams, and the agent, Pat Brisson, are trying to smoke teams out. Like, let's get to it here. The teams have had access, teams of interest have had access in Eichel's records for a bit now, and I'm talking weeks, certainly several days, and not just going back to the original diagnosis, the position of the Buffalo Sabres, that they contend the fusion surgery is his best surgical option of treatment, but the secondary work, the specialists that he's seen, basically all over the United States. Again, the teams that have interest in trade in Jack Eichel have that medical interest. And, as I reported this morning on Twitter, it's shifted from ongoing discussion to more serious talk as to what direction, these teams are willing to go in via trade. But I don't get the sense that anyone has literally said, okay, well, here's what we're going to give you. We'll take the risk. We'll take Jack on full blown. The hope is, I'm sure, from the player's standpoint and perhaps from the Buffalo Sabres perspective, is that offer, whatever it is, materializes in the days ahead, because Buffalo obviously would like to start fresh. Jack Eichel needs to get something done medically so he can get on the road to recovery and back in the National Hockey League. So there's more optimism now than there would have been in the last week.
Is there more of an understanding from the Sabres end, Darren, that a guy that's going to have surgery as soon as he gets off the airplane wherever he's going is not ultimately going to be a home run deal for the Sabres, and it's probably best to just get the best possible package here and move on for everybody in the organization without saying, okay, we just got to move on from this guy?
Yeah. I think logically that's the way that most look at it, and I'm not suggesting that the Buffalo Sabres aren't looking at it entirely that way, but I think that we can appreciate they're trying to protect an asset. They look at Jack Eichel when healthy as being obviously a top player in the National Hockey League, the number one center on pretty much every team in the league when he's healthy. So they don't want to devalue or diminish the asset, but they've got to be willing to be creative. I mean, let's use the Los Angeles Kings as Exhibit A here. People want to lump the LA Kings into this mix. I'm not so sure. I'm not saying that LA is disinterested. And when I hear what I heard, recently from Drew Doughty, and I know that Anze Kopitar is a big believer that this team still has opportunity. Well, is the opportunity in in Byfield or in Turcotte or some of their other younger pieces, or is there more opportunity in bringing something established into the mix? Well, it's the latter. But Rob Blake isn't just giving up Quentin Byfield or Alex Turcotte. He's just not going to do that unless he's sure that the method of treatment that Jack is going to have is going to make him better, is going to get him on the ice as soon as possible. Best case scenario here, guys, is still months away. Still months away from Jack Eichel realistically being able to step onto the ice from the National Hockey League level. So that's realistically how clubs are looking at it. And the reason that a deal hasn't been made yet is probably to do with the fact that Buffalo still feels that they've got to get more in return than teams are willing to pay because of the risk.
Dregs, you're talking about him being months away from playing. So let's just do a hypothetical and say the Rangers, for example, are interested. And I'm not putting words into your mouth or anything. This is more for my point.
Yeah.
The Rangers are a team that I think they believe they can make the playoffs this year. So it depends on who leaves, whether that's Zibanejad or a package or whatever. If you're trying to acquire Jack Eichel,
right,
and you might have to take a step back from your current team if some of those pieces have to go out and tread water if he's available by January or February. So that is another scenario that has to be factored in. It's a lot different if it's LA, Anaheim, maybe where the team's expectations are in a retooling or a rebuild. But if you're a team that's expected to get to that next level, or at least compete for a playoff spot, and you're giving up some of those assets to acquire a player that's not going to be available for 3 or 4 months. That's something that has to be sold either to a fan base or to management going, hey, there's a chance we might miss the playoffs because we go and acquire this player.
Right, I understand, and that's why I feel like, the best deal Buffalo might be able to make is one that's primarily based on futures. And maybe that's a young prospect who's in the NHL but hasn't quite found his stride yet. He's still developing. Or, a player that was drafted a year or two ago, again, that's still very much in the development phase. And then you can tack on the draft picks and the prospects and all that on top of that, depending on what you feel comfortable with. Specific to Eichel's return. But just so we don't get radioed, and Noodles, you made it pretty clear.
Right.
The Rangers told me, a Ranger source anyway, said that they're not in it earlier today. You used New York as an example, but I, again, need to be clear.
Right, being clear,
Yeah, and Anaheim, I think Anaheim would have interest, but only if the market crumbles in Buffalo, and they really don't have anything else, because as we would expect,
like going to Anaheim.
The Anaheim Ducks are embracing a rebuild, and they're trying to push players out. So not saying Jack wouldn't be of interest, but that's where it gets tricky, fellas. I'm not kidding, man. There's speculation. I mentioned LA. We just quickly, glossed over the Rangers, the Anaheim Ducks. I'm told there are a few teams with interest. I didn't scour 31 teams outside of Buffalo, but I talked to a number, and I believe my sources. I trust my sources. These are people who are working it several hours per day, but I haven't yet found a team that is saying, yeah, we're talking. Don't know we're going to get there, but we're talking. So this is going to have to materialize. If it materializes, I would say pretty quickly, and that would only be, I think, if the ask softens from Buffalo's standpoint, because they already have the medical intelligence. They know, each team knows what they're comfortable with, right? They would have had their doctors look at all the evidence provided, and their doctors would say, I wouldn't go there, or, yeah, we're okay with it. And that's probably what they're wrestling with now.